Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and this is the Piracy Show, or rather, this is take 2 of the Piracy Show. Now, originally this episode was about something entirely different, and then Calling All Devs showed up, and CIG tackled a very interesting issue. Now, they were talking about the idea of items in 315. Let's say you have, special edition Citizen Con laser pistol 2951 in, whatever color combination. That's my really cool special edition thing. But then you drop it on the surface of a planet, or someone else kills you and takes it from you. Well, then they have it. But it's attributed to your account, but for right now, they have it. And you may not have access to that item for a while. Now, they're working on a strategy. They're thinking about it. But what this does is this opens up the can of worms, because we're not really talking about your phaser pistol. We're not talking about your little air gun. We're not talking about, the special custom colored tractor beam gun. What we're talking about is ships. And this is the big problem with Star Citizen. How Star Citizen is funded, for anyone who doesn't know, which if you're watching this video you already know, is the sale of starships, right? The sale of starships funds Star Citizen, which also funds Squadron 42. And that's kind of a problem when you're dealing with, you're creating a finite asset when you sell ships. You're saying, if you want this Mercury Star Runner, $200 and change dollars. If you want a Reclaimer, $300 and change dollars. Oh, you want the Vanguard Warden, what is it now? $250, blah, 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 blah. You get the point. And that's what funds the game. So there is supposed to be like a finite supply of these ships, or it's supposed to kind of like create that impression. The problem is that it's a digital asset, so it isn't finite. And we come to a problem where a lot of us have made something of a career, a passion, a hobby out of moving ships around, using certain sales to shift things around, and basically put LTI, or lifetime insurance, on every single ship that we own. And so there are very few people out there right now who aren't strategizing or thinking about, whenever a new sale comes out, how do I CCU, refund, upgrade my way into this ship so I still have LTI? This is the game that we play every big sale. Oh, what should I upgrade into it? Easy answer, always a fighter, because fighters are dirt cheap and you'll be able to get them for nothing in the persistent universe. Now the problem is here I am, I'm flying around in my Mercury Star Runner, and I meet Johnny Space Captain. Johnny Space Captain's like, hey man, love your channel, I wish I could afford a Mercury Star Runner. I'm like, hey, you know what, I'm just gonna go and stop in here at the Whataburger or whatever, and I'm just gonna get some food, but I just happen to leave my keys in the ignition. Have a good time, my man. And so he goes, hops in my ship, flies away. I go, oh no, somebody just stole my ship. File the insurance claim. I get a ship. He's already got a ship. He ends up with a criminal record, but he can probably erase that, get rid of it at some point in the game. There's going to be that mechanic. Or he can just head off into a part of space where maybe those laws aren't going to be that rigorously enforced. And so he gets that ship. Now, from this, we can expand out and we can think of endless scenarios. Let's say you're an org and you and another org like to partner up together and basically steal each other's ships to duplicate your ships so that you have 4 or 5 different copies of your ship sitting in your hangar. So that way, if you have to file an insurance claim, you don't really have to file an insurance claim. You just go to your hangar and say, get me Mercury Star Runner number 2, get me Mercury Star Runner number 3. What's to stop somebody from potentially doing this? If you're stealing ships from people and just using that to replicate the ships that you already have. What happens when you get a ship back in insurance and then someone returns your original ship and you just happen to find it somewhere. Well, then you have two ships, right? How is all of this going to work? And this is a huge problem. This is a real mind bender for a lot of people at CIG, and it's one of the problems where the game world and the real world have now kind of come into conflict with one another, because there's the idealized version of how this all works, but the problem is that in actuality, gamers love to find workarounds to the barriers that game developers like to put in front of them. And it is it is a battlefield strewn with the corpses of many a prideful game developer who, said, oh, well, I've got the system. And it's just like, no, you don't. No, you don't. And what are we going to do? Are we going to check every ship insurance claim? Are we going to hire somebody at CIG who's going to investigate every insurance claim and make sure it's legit and then there was no trickery involved? How do we handle all these things? It really kind of blows up into a nightmare, and all of it spawns from the idea of what is ship insurance? What is item insurance? If I have an item attributed to my account and somebody else takes it, if that person gets arrested, does that mean that all their assets everywhere that may be stolen anywhere in the universe get returned to their owners? Or is it only the items that they have with them? What happens if they take my gun and they take it to Grim Hex, but they don't go back to Grim Hex for 4 or 5 years? There are players in EVE Online, and we were talking about this privately. I commented on the fact that I own a very, very expensive ship in EVE Online that I haven't logged into for over a decade. And it's quite the asset just sitting there logged out in the game. It's very possible that 10 years from now in Star Citizen, some of these ships might be sitting in an unused hangar somewhere. To be perfectly honest, there are some of you who have ships in your hangar that you haven't touched in years. We're coming up to, what is it? Almost the 10th anniversary. We're very close to it. Almost the 10th anniversary of, Star Citizen ship sale. So all the ships that'll be available there, even if you can't, use the LTI dance to get into the ship that you want with LTI, at this point, you're going to be buying ships with LTI anyway, because 10 years of in-game playtime, 10 years of insurance, that's what it adds up to, is more than you'll ever really use. I mean, like, take it from me. I was a hardcore WoW player, but I only ever played one character, and I played that character since 2007 all the way up till 2021, and I didn't even play in all that time. I never even put in a full year of gameplay time on that character in game time. And so if you think about it, if you buy a ship at this anniversary sale, even if you don't have LTI, you have unlimited insurance. And you can think of all kinds of different ways that you can kind of work around this. You could say, oh, well, we'll make it so what it is that the ships, the hulls, are nearly worthless. It's the mods that are what are really expensive about the ships. But if someone captures your ship or blows up your ship, they'll still be able to take those mods, the ones that survive, or the cargo that survives from your ship. So there's still value to be drawn out of that. And the problem is because of that LTI, because of that insurance, you can just bring that ship back into existence. Because if you can't, then the whole way that the game was funded in the first place doesn't work. And you're going to have a lot of very angry people. Because that is kind of one of the pillars that you just can't pull out. You can't take that away. If you do, then the whole thing goes belly up. It doesn't work anymore. Everyone is going to look at it and say, hey, I bought this, you said lifetime insurance, and now you have to take it away because the system you designed actually, let's be real here. The system that you kind of figured in your head when you decided to make the game back in 2012, or a little bit earlier than that, leading up to the announcement, you never really worked out the system logically and thought about, oh, how is this going to work in the game? And you've just been kind of doing it as you go along and making up rules as things become real without actually thinking about the impact of the basic funding of the game. You were basically giving people unlimited assets in the game. That's how you funded it in the first place. You can't turn around and say, oh, that thing that I said was unlimited is not unlimited. Even if there's a 30-day delay on an insurance claim on a larger ship, it's still, that's still just a 30-day cycling paycheck within the game. Even if the ship only paid out 1/10 of its value to the person who steals it. Let's say a Carrack, which is what, 27 million in game right now? 1/10 of its value every 30 days would be 2.5 million out, UEC. That's a hell of a payday for one ship, and most of the people who have a Carrack probably have a few other ships in their hangar that they can rotate through. And so they could do this multiple times and just space them out. And there's no real way to prove that it's fraudulent, because in playing the game in an open world, world PvP, hardcore asset theft game, ships are going to be getting blown up left, right, and center, and insurance claims are just going to be through the roof. So you can never actually prove that it was fraudulent in the first place. Even if you were to say that, okay, so here's how it is. When you buy this Mercury Star Runner, there's another asset that comes with the Mercury Star Runner that we forgot to tell you about. And it's the Mercury Star Runner pilot skill. And only you know how to repair or maintain the Mercury Star Runner properly. So if anyone else steals your ship after a certain amount of time, it will just break down and it won't work anymore. But even if you were to design a system like that, the ship still has material value. Otherwise, the entire profession of salvaging wouldn't exist. That hull is still made of duranium or tritanium or neutronium or whatever. Those engines have fuel, they have components, everything. That's still a salvageable asset. So any way you look at it, you have basically guaranteed people an infinite replay on these assets, even if there is a delay. And that asset is basically a paycheck. It is a license to print money, and the bigger your paddock of ships, the more money that you can print. And so you can't, the only way that you could really disable this is to go all the way back to what you said about the game in the very beginning and say, you know what, from now on, players can't steal from each other and players can't blow up each other's ships. You would literally have to make Star Citizen a PvE game in order to disable this. And I'm sure that there's some people out there like, yes, that's what I want anyway. But the truth of it is that no one really knows what the reaction to that is going to be. So there's probably going to be some people who would be happy with that. There's going to be a large amount of people who will say, no, I'm unhappy. I'm very unhappy. I'm angry. And things could get really rough really quick if you were to all of a sudden fundamentally change the game. And I think that, truth be told, even the people who are like, oh yeah, no, that's a great idea, after a while they would get bored of just PvE and they would want to do PvP in the game. They'd accrue so much money that they'd be looking for ways to burn it up. They'd want to test their fighters, their Idrises, their Polarises, their retaliators against one another. And the second you enable that, you enable them to basically print money in the game, because there are careers like salvage, which you have sold ships for. Oh, well, salvage only works on PvE, NPC ships. It doesn't work on player ships. But you never specified that when you sold them. And once again, these two things are kind of incompatible with one another. So it's a real problem, because any way you try to force a solution to this, someone's going to be getting really pissed. And whenever I think about it, and I go, okay, figure out a way to do it. How would you do it? It's without fundamentally changing the game, or basically taking one of the core pillars that allowed you to fund the game in the first place and then just flipping it on its head. It's just saying like, oops, which would never wash in the first place. I mean, I don't even think legally you could do that. It just turns into a nightmare for everyone, for CIG, for the players, for everyone. I mean, it would just... How do you get out of this box that you've put yourself in? You know? Oh, well, clearly the solution is we'll make, just a PvP switch. The people who don't want a PvP can just live in the PvE universe, and the people who do want a PvP, can live in the PvP universe. But the people who live in the PvP universe are very quickly going to have infinite money. They're just going to start printing cash because they can. You can look at just about any MMO where there is room for players to profit. They will profit. And the players that don't do it will eventually start doing it because they don't want to keep falling behind, because they're the only ones who don't have money. Right? We can look at so many games and so many examples. I can pull examples even out of WoW and just say, this is a system, this is how they designed it, and this is how it blew up in their faces. And I really, this is one of the crazier things that, this really kind of highlights this problem with how Star Citizen was funded in the first place. And try as I might, I can't figure a way out of it.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.